Imagine you spend nearly 30 years building a life, a family, and a business empire with someone. You start with nothing, and then it all comes apart. A court now has to put a price tag on your entire life's work together. Today, we're diving into a landmark case that's not just about the law. It's about a marriage, a huge fortune, and a fight over a single $40 million question.
At the absolute center of this whole thing is a jaw-dropping amount of money, 40 million Australian dollars. And this wasn't some inheritance or a lottery ticket. This was a fortune they built from the ground up over almost 3 decades, a real rags to riches story. But when the partnership ended, the question became, how in the world do you split a lifetime?
So, after hearing the whole 29-year story, the first court came back with this verdict: 60% for the husband, 40% for the wife. Now that 20% gap might not sound like a lot, but on $40 million, we're talking about an $8 million difference. And that just led to an even bigger question.
And this is the real mystery we're unpacking today. After a 29-year journey, how did a judge decide that one partner's work was worth millions more than the others? We're going to dig into the arguments, expose the hidden flaws in that first decision, and see how it all got turned on its head.
So to really get this, we've got to understand the two people involved. In court, they're Mr. Smith and Miss Fields, but for nearly 30 years, they were husband and wife. And when they walked into that courtroom, they told two completely different stories about their shared life. Their story really starts like a classic Aussie dream. They get married super young, with basically nothing to their names. He was a talented carpenter, she became a homemaker after their first kid was born. So while he built houses, she built their home. Together, they raised 3 kids and saved up enough to start their own construction company in 1990. And that company, well, it took off and became the foundation of everything.
And this, right here, is where their stories just completely split apart. Mr. Smith's version? He was the hero, the visionary, with the business genius. But Miss Fields painted a very different picture. Not a story about a lone hero, but about a team, a true partnership, where her work at home was just as vital as his work on a construction site. This quote really gets to the heart of his entire case. He argued that the sheer size of their fortune, which put them in the top fraction of a percent of Australian households, was proof that his contribution wasn't just big, it was special. He was, as he put it, the mastermind.
And here's her powerful counter. She wasn't just sitting on the sidelines, she was building the foundation. By taking care of the home and raising the family, she created the physical and mental space that let him focus 100% on the business. You see, for her, they were two essential parts of the same whole.
Okay, so the stage is set. You've got two strong, conflicting stories. So how on earth did the trial judge land on that 60-40 split? Now we're going to pick apart the verdict itself and find the critical mistakes that led to that multi-million-dollar gap. All right, listen closely to this because it's wild. The trial judge actually wrote this down in his judgment. He put it on the record that he believed the role of homemaker is just as valuable as the role of breadwinner. No difference. A clear statement of equality. So you'd expect a 50-50 split, right? Seems logical. But then, in the very same ruling, he wrote this, the complete opposite. He concluded that the husband's business talent made his contribution significantly greater. It's a huge contradiction, right there in the heart of the verdict. The appeal court would later call his reasoning inadequate. And believe it or not, that wasn't his only mistake. The judge also took what the appeal courts called a dangerous shortcut. You see, the husband's lawyers gave him a list of other big-money divorce cases. And this list just so happened to suggest that wives in these situations never got more than 40%. The judge actually put this table in his ruling, and then, surprise, surprise, he awarded Miss Fields exactly 40%. It looks like he used it as a ceiling on what she could get. Well, as you can imagine, Miss Fields felt this was a huge injustice, so she appealed. And this is where our story takes a dramatic turn. Because the appellate court didn't just tweak the decision, they took a legal scalpel to its flawed logic and completely dismantled it, piece by piece.
The appeal court just broke it all down. First, they pointed out that massive contradiction we saw. Second, they threw out that comparable cases table, calling it a worthless and seductive tool. And third, and this is the knockout punch, they totally rejected the husband's core argument, that making a ton of money automatically makes your contribution more valuable.
So, after tearing that old verdict to shreds, the appellate court didn't waste any time. They made their own decision, and this was it. Clean, simple, equal.
It was a complete and total victory for Miss Fields. The court threw out the old 60-40 order and replaced it with a perfectly equal 50-50 split of their entire $40 million empire. At the end of the day, justice meant recognizing their 29-year partnership as exactly that, a partnership of equals. So, what can we all take away from this incredible legal fight? I mean, beyond the millions of dollars and the courtroom drama, this case has some really profound lessons about marriage, value, and the law that are pretty relevant to all of us.
Okay, this whole story leaves us with 5 big lessons. 1. A long-term marriage is a partnership of equals, period. There's no food chain of contributions. 2. Being a business genius isn't some magic trump card in family court. 3. Every family's story is unique, so you can't just copy and paste outcomes from other cases. 4. The court has to look at the entire picture of the relationship. And finally, 5. A fair decision has to be based on sound logic. A verdict that contradicts itself, well, it deserves to be challenged.
You know, this case started with a $40 million price tag, but it really ends with this much deeper question. It forced the legal system to look past the spreadsheets and the business plans and to try and measure the immeasurable value of a shared life. And in this case, the answer was crystal clear. It's worth an equal share. It's a powerful reminder that in any true partnership, the biggest contributions are often the ones you can't put a number on.